One time for the one time. It's the family bloodline.
What's good people? That was my bad. My bad. That was my phone. It's in my set. Anyway, what's good people? We are back again for another episode of the Family Bloodline Podcast. Yeah, it's good times on here. And as everybody can see, we have a new guest, and we're going to introduce him shortly. Deuce is going to be out for all those who are wondering where he is. Deuce thought he was still young, I'm guessing. Or not so much young, but Deuce thought I'm gonna send him a text and let him know I'm finna talk bad about him. But Deuce thought he thought he could still do some younger man things and play ball the way he used to, and he went out there and probably blown his MCL out. So he sent us a picture.
But you know what they say? Playing ball, chasing young women. Woo! You'll throw something out now.
Hey, yeah, no, I'm not for it. I don't even play basketball no more. I think I've given that up. I think we'll see.
Well, he was at some young gal's house. He turned them out.
Oh, you think that's what happened?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think Jaquita put it on him.
Oh, no, not a Jaquita.
Oh yes, Jaquita.
All right. I hope you're listening and know we're making fun of him. It's all love though. It's all love. So yeah. So as always, before we get too far started, I just want to check in and see how everyone's day and week has been so far. Starting with you, Reg, since you are the new guy on the block.
Yeah. The day was interesting. We just had some tornado sirens about an hour or two ago, and that I'm in St. Louis, and we just experienced a tornado in the city, and actually not that far away from me. Took it a lot more seriously and more deliberately than previous times. So kind of just been in the basement all day, and fortunately have a nice setup down here, so it's definitely comfortable. But the day was more dedicated to just making sure that I'm doing the right thing and being safe. But the week is going by good. I really can't complain. Productive. The only thing that I wish I could do was be outside a little bit more. We had some hazy weather, I think, from the Canadian wildfires that was just disrupting the air quality. Yeah. But at the same time, and then it's been raining off and on. So I love to run. I love to be outside. So I'm hoping to get out there tomorrow and spend a couple hours on the trails.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, St. Louis has been getting hit up. Like we had an actual tornadoes touch down not too long ago. Fortunately, y'all were okay. That remains a thing, right? Yeah, just hoping and praying that y'all don't get caught up in any bad weather that's happening. But tornadoes going through there right now is wild. I know on the west side of Missouri, they had a very similar thing yesterday. They were having tornado warnings and sirens going off and all that other craziness. Like, what is going on? Somebody messing with that weather machine or something somewhere, I guess. I don't know. So it is what it is. Rich, how have you been?
Well, as the president of the largest public sector union in California, I've been tremendous. I did a couple of videos. People know that I will be shortly, and all this nonsense with the man called Gavin will come to an end. I will be able to solve it one day. And I was supposed to go to court. That got delayed again. But as I tell everyone, I am the president of Local 1000. If you think I am defaming the union, I'm defaming this organization, please sue me. Take me back to court, or take me to court and we can talk about it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I want you to.
And
I'm
this
an
is up.
outspoken black man.
you
I'm
want
out
all the
of
smoke.
control. Out of control. I don't place. And so they should be suing me for defamation, for claiming that I'm still the Local 1000 president. They should be suing me. I don't understand why they won't take my.
Get it off the chest.
Right.
I hope they're watching this. I really hope they're watching these family podcasts, the Family Bloodline. I hope they're watching it. I hope they record it. And I hope they take me to court and hold me responsible for saying I am the president of Local 1000. And I'm not backing up for no one. Yeah, take me to court. They're already trying to put another lien on my home. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Another.
And this ain't no pseudo. This is President Richard Lewis Brown. Ain't no Bitcoin. This is who I am. No pseudo name.
Okay.
It's who I am. What I stand on.
And so we see how Rich is doing this evening. Which is all right. As long as you're feeling some type of way, I'm doing okay. I'm fabulous, family. I'm
back to court. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful. I'm pushing, moving, and grooving, and just waiting to. Got a lot of big things happening, so I'm excited. I'm excited. And so, as always, on the Wednesday night podcast, I have to make sure I read our disclaimer, which says the views expressed are those held by the author and do not represent any other organization, company, corporation, or entity.
Except for Local 1000.
Except for
represent Local 1000. If they don't like that, take me to court.
And there you have it. There you had it. You heard it. You heard it from.
Don't be afraid. Don't be scared.
Yeah, President Richard Lewis Brown's mouth by himself of his own accord. I can dig it. I can dig it.
They say there's freedom of speech in America. At least that's what President Trump says. That's what he says.
That's for some, but not for all. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, as a trans white man,
I
have that privilege.
Oh,
Rich don't know how I get down.
Hey, I'm finding out.
One of my best friends in the military, his name was Reggie. Reggie. That's why I say Reg.
Yeah.
There you go. So I see what type of show it's finna shape up to be. So let's get into it. Before we go too much further, Reggie, why don't you introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, where you're from, what you do, the things that you're into, all the other good stuff.
Yeah, I'm Reggie. I'm from St. Louis, in St. Louis currently. I'm an adventurer, a skydiver, an investor, property owner. I'm into regenerative agriculture, into passport stamps. Really into family and making sure that I am just open and honest with friends and Black people in general about like where we need to go, what we need to do as a people, but also as a tribe. And so, yeah, that's me.
I love it. I love it. So, well, I brought you on. I asked you to come on. I requested for you to come on, and I absolutely appreciate you being willing and able to do this. To talk a little bit about Bitcoin and the different avenues and everything in between. And in the future, for everybody on TikTok, I'm going to post a link for the actual platform to hop on and talk and state your opinion. But in a second, I'd like for you to begin to just run us through what Bitcoin is, where the value comes from, how you got into it, all of that good stuff. Real quick though, I'm trying to get this clip to play. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get this clip to play. I was thinking about Bitcoin this morning as I hopped up, and I said it out loud. And so since I said it out loud, the demons in the interwebs heard my voice, and I pulled up YouTube to look at some stuff, and I saw that Donald Trump Jr. Began to talk about Bitcoin, and he said a few things about it. And I'll play the intro of what he said. Give me 1 second. I'll present the screen. I think it's interesting, and I am always at an awe as to how they make themselves victims. So let's listen to this for a quick second. Here we go.
They have a meme coin.
I think, of course, when he did that before he was
Actually,
in
let me
office,
start it over.
he did these.
I'm gonna pull it back a little bit because the preface to his answers is very important as to what was being said on this actual stream.
The rubber stamp of the administration, and lead into some of the other things. The meme coin. Is that okay for your dad to have a meme coin?
I think, of course, when he did that before he was in office, he did these things. The reason we got into crypto, and we're all in on crypto, and we're doing American Bitcoin, and we have World Liberty Finance and USD1, was because there was a time, and probably I'd been on this show, where I could call any single banker in New York City. I'd pick up the phone. I'd be able to get a loan for whatever real estate project I was doing across the street. Then we got into politics, and all of a sudden, they wouldn't take your call. Right. You couldn't get financing. We were debanked. And what I realized, and my brother realized, because we were the recipients of every subpoena imaginable, was that, you know what, we were actually just the top of this sort of pyramid scheme that we didn't realize we were a part of, that the financial system was totally undemocratized. Because we had a certain balance sheet and whatever, we could kind of do whatever we wanted. The regular guy was messed up. Now we were all of a sudden in the shoes of the regular guy that wouldn't be able to take advantage of the markets. And we said, what?
I want to pause it out right there. All right. And I'll go around the panel just to hear what you all hear him saying, just so y'all can weigh in on what you hear Donald Trump Jr. saying right now, as far as being unbanked or debanked or democratized from banking, and the reason behind the current president has meme coins and all these other things. So what is it that y'all hear him saying? Go ahead, Rich. I see you on.
No, I know why we had that noise. Sorry. So he's not totally lying. Not totally. President Trump couldn't get loans years ago. Rumor alleged he had to go through a bank called Deutsche Bank over in Germany, and Deutsche Bank was hooked up doing business with a lot of people, including the Russians, allegedly. So it's not far-fetched to believe that they could always go out and get loans. And then when President Trump got involved with running for office the first time in 2015 for the 2016 election, that he may have faced some pushback. But is he telling the entire truth? Nah, not the whole truth, but
yeah, people get debanked for various reasons, but that makes you wonder what the exact reason for their family getting debanked. And it seems like they do a good job of not expressing the total view all the time. And so I'd be curious to see why that reason is. But at the same time, it does speak to one of the future problems that a lot of people might have, which is like centralized banking and a centralized fiat currency. And that's what crypto and Bitcoin is trying to make more public. And so that's his justification of his father getting into meme coins, because it's decentralized and thus doesn't have the same type of infractions, but also doesn't have the same type of insurances that a centralized currency could have. So is it ethical to do that as the president and as the family members of the president of the United States? I think we have some stuff on the books that would suggest that it's not. But at the same time, he's testing these laws and these statutes all the time.
It's so funny that you said, it's funny that you said fiat and decentralized. It's funny because I remember having a conversation with someone months ago, maybe until last year, about the Federal Reserve System. And I was laughed and criticized and demonized and ridiculed, ostracized, That person's not here tonight. I know another educated black man has come on the family bloodline. First, it was Mr. Lynn Medeiros. Now it's Mr. Reggie, the skydiver. So it's funny. I think Bitcoin, I have mixed views because it doesn't go by the central bank. I love that. But if you're doing something illegal, and you get to hide that money, I'd run the Bitcoin. That's what I would do. So it has some good things and it has some bad things.
All right.
Or you could use cash. You could still use actual cash for legal and illegal things.
Right, but if I wanted to get involved in Bitcoin and buy some Bitcoin with some money I took from this liquor store robbery, hypothetically, I could take the money from the liquor store and then run and buy me some Bitcoin. And then Reggie comes and buys my Bitcoin. And then I go and get Reggie's clean money, dreadlock Rasta money. And now I'm clean after robbing the liquor store. That's what it sounds like to me.
So let's listen. Yeah. So let's listen in as just a little bit more. I'm not going to play too much more of this because it was hard for me to stomach this morning, that early in the morning, listening to this foolishness. But just for a little while longer, I want to hear the victimhood that's being portrayed. Like this, I've never heard millionaires and billionaires be as big of victims as Elon Musk, the terrorist, or Donald Trump Jr. and his brother. I'm every single chance these jokers get it. They are always a victim of something. But now, when they were out talking about Burisma or talking about Joe Biden's son and laptops and all this other foolishness, it didn't pertain to them. Anything ethical or unethical that they were talking against. Well, hey, always look at them, right? Don't look at us doing it. But again, let me play this victimhood mentality real quick because I think it's a phenomenon that's happening across America with people that look like him. And this is a segue. It's an intersectionality point of trying to assimilate into a culture that other people that look like him who ain't got the financial backing are trying to get into. But anyway, let's get into that.
What's the solution for that? The answer is crypto. These decentralized platforms where you're not beholden to this, where you create efficiencies. As a guy that did real estate, why am I paying points in and out for title insurance that could be done on the blockchain? So we got into crypto not because it was like, hey, this is the next cool thing. We got into it out of necessity. We got into it because we understood just how quickly we could be turned off, even as an incredible developer from New York City. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue that we didn't change the skyline of New York City, but that disappeared in an instant. I mean, we're getting sued by New York State AG, $500 million fees for paying back loans on time with interest. These aren't, fair markets. There's nothing egalitarian about any of that. So we actually, as innovators, as people who understand these things, we went all in on a concept that makes total sense because we'd actually been the recipient of how quickly that can be shut off. And so it actually makes total sense. The Trump organization isn't doing anything with foreign countries. The first time around in the administration.
All right, that's about as much lies I can take from him, talking about crypto and all that other stuff. Because as soon as he said, now this happened, the date on this actual interview, give me a second. Let me find it real quick. This is a couple of days ago. This is not long ago at all. I'll have to find the date. I owe the date. What? Anyway, I'll come back to it. But for him to say that they're not dealing with foreign countries, well, I can't take him at his word because we know that there were people were donating multi-millions of dollars to the meme coin in order to have dinner with the president. And it was done on a multiple different anyway. So I can't stand the amount of lying that he's done throughout that interview. I highly recommend going to look at it. All you have to do is Google Donald Trump Jr. on crypto to hear the waterfall of lies and foolishness that are coming and victimhood that's coming from his face. I don't respect him. I'm gonna throw that out there too. So But with the things that he did say that I do agree with, the ability to pivot to a blockchain type of currency or process, I think is a better word for it, to wash money, whether it was legal at one point or not as you were. I've been look, I had a long day. I've been teaching students and I've been using military jargon all day. So, but as a point of understanding, and as a process of a blockchain goes, and being able to take a fiat currency and make it and push it over into a clean form or value, and then essentially withdraw it and it be clean at that point is crazy to me. It's like being able to launder money with very little oversight, essentially. But I'm just using terms and throwing stuff out that are ideas to me. They could be hyperbole. They might be truth. I don't know exactly where it falls into or on the line of truth. So Reggie, if you could explain in terms that I can understand, explain what blockchain is.
So blockchain is a public ledger. And that's the beauty about crypto like Bitcoin, is that all the transactions are publicly available. And I think
okay.
For the
I'm sorry. Give me a second. Now that you say that, I could have been wrong with the assumption that I just made. So can you take some dirty money and put it through this process of blockchaining and buying crypto to clean it in the end?
Yes.
On other platforms, yes.
What? Wait a minute. So you're saying on the American Bitcoin platform, you can't take dirty money and put it on it? You sure?
I'm not saying that that's not possible. I'm saying that because Bitcoin is public, you should be able to trace some sources of that address.
Nah.
And because you could trace the address, in theory, you might be able to figure out who is the owner of that.
Wait a minute.
But at the same time, crypto is supposed to be more, it does have a level of anonymity to it, which allows somebody to be able to just say, hey, like if I want to convert something to another thing, and then either get a loan against that money, because it's not like you could just take out the equivalent of whatever Bitcoin or the meme coin is worth typically. Let's say Bitcoin is like at 100 and something thousand right now, right?
Okay.
And so you can't just take one whole Bitcoin out of an ATM, right? Like that's not how it works. So in order to finance whatever that activity that you might want to finance, you would either have to, most people would have to go through a centralized network like Coinbase or some other platform, which allows you, which is a custodial account, which allows you to withdraw money through a centralized banking system.
Hold on a second. See, this is some garbage. Now I'm gonna tell you why. No, not that you're not an expert. You know what you're doing. You made the money. We haven't. First, let me ask you this question, because I gotta ask you this. Bitcoin, a free market ideology. Bitcoin was invented in 2008 when an unknown entity published a white paper under the pseudonym Tyrone LaCroix Jenkins. Can you explain that to me?
Explain what exactly?
Based on a free market ideology, Bitcoin was invented in 2008 when an unknown entity published a white paper under the pseudonym of Tyrone LaCroix Jenkins.
Yeah, nobody really knows who.
Stop right there. You walked into the trap.
Bitcoin is. There's
walked into the trap.
Let them finish, Rich. You gotta let them finish, man. You gotta let them get it out.
At the time, it was a novel idea that there's actually a documentary on this, several documentaries, but the most recent one is like a HBO documentary. But essentially, yes, the creator of Bitcoin has remained anonymous. You are correct.
No, I just named him Tyrone LaCroix Jenkins.
That's the name that person is going by. Yeah.
Nope. See, I just walked into this because I got this off the internet. The
Yep.
pseudonym was Satoshi Nakamoto, some cat in Japan, I guess. See, nobody knows who created this nonsense. I said some black name just to see if you would say, yeah, he did it. If you know if a black man had done something like this, it wouldn't be going down. So it had to be somebody with some respectability. That's the first thing. But an unknown entity? What the hell is this? Well, then I can just go back to the Central Reserve. That's an unknown entity. But that was in 1913 when they recreated that bad boy. So when
so what you're saying is like, we don't know who invented money, but what you're saying is because we use money now and it's printed by the federal government, it's more valid than something that is invented by someone who's anonymous?
That's a great question.
let's move on.
No, no, you got to answer that.
You know, that's a great point. And I guess
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is they're trying to convince you to do something in this Bitcoin that's kind of mysterious. And a lot of people say the Federal Reserve is something mysterious as well. So if you already had one thing that was mysterious, and like you said, it's a fiat currency, it's based off of perception after the gold standard went away. This is really the same thing, except this has no authority, allegedly. But I can't even tell you.
I think we're in a phase where if we don't agree on its decentralization, its authority might be put into private or governmental majority.
No, I agree with you because on the internet it says the same thing you just said, that it's decentralized. There is no central bank, and that's the great thing about this. Because remember, Donald Trump Jr. was saying, because of politics, my dad can't get loans, and we're paying back these loans with the interest. So we had to, look for other measures. And one of the measures we looked at was going into Bitcoin. Because what I was led to believe, if I have money, I can just invest it in Bitcoin. And then somebody else can come behind and buy my Bitcoin whenever I want to sell it.
Is that possible? I don't know. I haven't I tried investing in Bitcoin. I didn't do a good job with maintaining a semblance of intelligence about it. I just threw about $20 somewhere and forgot about it. I don't even know. I don't know if it's in Coinbase or what. I really don't. But when it comes to the actual investment part and how it actually garners value, where does that foundational value come from?
It comes from the fact that it is basically a fixed supply. Like there will only be a certain amount of Bitcoin ever mined and produced, which is like 21 million. And so
21 how much?
21 million total Bitcoin.
That's it?
Yeah. And so we see Bitcoin as like this thing that's a fad now, but essentially it's supposed to degrade over time and not exist after, I can't remember the calculations, but by 100 years from now, this shouldn't be in circulation anymore. It will be within the confined space of whoever has it, and so that's why people are very enthusiastic about getting on it now, because there's only 450 of Bitcoin mined daily. And this is supposed to go truncate over time. So it's doing something that traditional currency can't do, which is control its own network, right? Like we have so much money that's been printed over the past few years, 5-6 years, that we see that the value of the dollar has decreased because our purchasing power of the dollar has decreased in every facet, whether it's food, entertainment, shopping, you name it. Everything has gotten more expensive over time. And so one of the beauties about Bitcoin and other cryptos to a degree, and equities, real estate, all these things are hedges against a dollar that is devaluing, and everybody knows that it's devaluing.
So my question is to you, Reggie. You use that word mining, and I think gold. So when you said a few minutes ago that you're only going to have $21 million worth of Bitcoin. That's the most you can ever have.
There's only 21 million Bitcoin.
21 million.
The value of the Bitcoin hypothetically is going to increase because it becomes more rare. And so that's why it seems to be a gold rush in crypto right now, because of everybody kind of piggybacking off of the intrinsic value that Bitcoin is trying to have by being rare.
Okay, so since you say that it's rare, you only have 21 million total Bitcoin, but that 21 million total Bitcoin can have a value as high as, quote, the free market will allow it?
Yeah, if you're measuring it by US dollars.
Is that making sense to you?
And it's more of a tale about other currencies than it is about Bitcoin. Because why has Bitcoin risen every year dramatically for the past decade? It's because the value of the dollar has decreased practically every year for the past decade.
So what I'm seeing is, you said there's a set amount of Bitcoin, 21 million. That's the set amount. I don't know who established that amount, because I don't know how that kind of, flows with the free market. So the free market said we want more than just 21 million total Bitcoin. We want 100 million total Bitcoin.
The whole theory. So I would encourage you to read the white paper on Bitcoin. It's available. I think you can go to bitcoin.org and view the white paper. It's very technical. I would encourage you to take your time with it, but also use AI and other systems to help you summarize appropriately.
Gotcha.
But essentially, there is supposed to only be a limited amount in order to make it valuable. The theory is currency is not as valuable because it could be mass produced by the government. Like we don't know the day that the government printed $100 million of money and threw it into the system, into the banking system, because that's what they do. They throw it into the banking system. It's not like they print $100 million and just hand it out to people. That's not how it works. So in essence, it's decentralized. It's a public network in the blockchain ledger system. People can agree in theory that like this protocol should stay the same and shouldn't change. There's a difference in certain Bitcoins. I'm not an expert in like why the protocol split. There's been books and documentaries about that I can reference a little bit later. But essentially it prevents one entity from owning all of it. The US government is the only entity allowed to print the dollar. Like, and anybody else is going to have the Secret Service coming after them and the Treasury Department. Yeah. So we know that, and thus forgers and all that stuff, they getting arrested with the fullest extent of the law if they ever learned how to make a like legit fake forged currency, right? And so because this is accessible to everybody through exchanges and on the blockchain, in essence, you could get as much as you could afford. You could get $5 a week. You could put $20 in, forget about it, and check it. And it's probably, depending on when you bought it, it's probably worth $100 right now.
So you got into this really early, and you're going to do well, Reggie.
That's typically the name of the game when it comes to investments is try to be.
No. You're going to do well
in it in the beginning and stay in it.
Yeah, but you have to know when to duck. And here's the funny thing. So this guy, Nakamoto, not Tyrone LaCroix Jenkins, but how you say his name? Nakamoto. Nakamoto came up with this brilliant idea. Nobody knows nothing about Nakamoto. He's like COVID. Where the hell did this shit come from? Okay. And we see here,
That was a stretch, but all right.
We know that he at least has some computer science engineering
Oh, I didn't say he wasn't brilliant.
background. He or she, we don't know.
Yeah. I'm not saying that. But here's the rest of the story with this guy. He started the blockchain that you were talking about. And then he mined about, this is off the internet, he mined about 1 million Bitcoins before disappearing in 2010. See, it's that kind of stuff that I know this ain't on the up and up.
Nobody ever knew who he was. So how you know if he disappeared or not?
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
a damn valid question.
So the first thing is, who the hell is this guy? I can't put my hands on. At least with the Federal Reserve in 1913, I can tell you President Wilson signed it. They rushed it through Congress, I think December 22nd or December 23rd. That's part of documented history. And we can see who signed for the Federal Reserve to be established, a central bank to be reestablished after the last one didn't get his charter renewed. So we can see that. So that's no conspiracy. That's the absolute truth.
Sure.
So
I mean,
are you?
Why
Go
are
ahead.
the origins of it so, and the creator of it, so important to you?
Because it's your foundation. If you have a shaky foundation, I'm not rolling with you.
Do you know who created the silicone chip, or do you know that a lot of companies and softwares have been built off of it, thus being able to allow us to like do what we do now? Like, I get that history and the origin is important, but also when you build on the foundation, those things are also just as important, right?
No, Reggie, because I think you're trying to compare apples to some fried chicken. No, I'm not going for that.
The silicone chip to
no
crypto?
No, that's a little no. I mean, it sounds reasonable what you're saying, Reggie, but I'm not accepting it. Now, other people would say, "Oh, Reggie's absolutely right." A lot of people would say Reggie's absolutely right, and they'd be absolutely wrong. They'll be the same ones that have their ass handed to them.
So the question again.
Oh, how so?
Yeah, because
you cannot tell me who started this situation. And even when they said they disappeared mysteriously, he said, well, we don't even know if that person was there to begin with. Then who the heck started this whole situation? That they said, we don't want to go by the Central Reserve, the central bank, the Federal Reserve. We want to do something that's based on the free market, that's not controlled, but yet we'll have some type of control on it. Like you said, the total amount right now, you say it's 21 million. Total amount
that will be in supply is 21 million.
Okay, and then we don't know if that will ever increase or decrease.
No, we do know.
Oh, you do know.
The 21 million is the total supply that will be in circulation.
So it's in and out 21 million.
No, there's only going to be 21. It will either be held privately by individuals or centralized in Coinbase or wherever, but you'll only be able to have up to 21 million.
So but I'm writing down what you're saying, and I'm following you. So the total number of the Bitcoin would be 21 million, whether someone holds it privately or publicly. But that 21 million may have a value of 10 million today or 15 billion tomorrow. You know what?
It sounds like it sounds like it's a similar thing as the value of the dollar, right? Because sometimes the value of the dollar is more than like. I guess I got to check it out because I can't remember off the top of my head. But the fiat currency, like the fluctuation of it, it's the same concept.
No. That's it. Well, because like Reggie said, you're only going to have a set amount of 21 million. Period. Where with the dollar, if the government needs more money, they don't have it in their savings, they're in a deficit, they just go to the Fed, and the Fed says, okay, how much money you need? Okay, we'll borrow it to you, you pay it back with interest that you'll never be able to pay us back.
Right. And that part I'm not debating you on. What I'm talking about is a fluctuation of the value of it, right? If they're printing more money, the value of the dollar goes down. Right. However, although a Bitcoin can fluctuate in value, it's not going to that's a similarity that it has with the fiat dollar. But because they're
you can, so to be clear, you can peg and compare the value of Bitcoin to other currencies and to gold. Like you can go on tradingview.com right now and look at BTC to gold or to euro right now and see what the difference is. We're talking in dollars because that's our currency.
Right.
So it, like I said earlier, it's saying more about our currency than anything. But most people who are into using crypto as an investment strategy, mind you, I'm all in on crypto, but it's only like no more than 10% of my portfolio. So like this is something that is still volatile. It is still not as battle tested as equities or real estate or gold. So what I'm saying is use it as an investment tool. Hold on to it if you think it has the intrinsic value of it based off of its protocols of decentralization and et cetera. But it is something that is still a newer system that, for the most part, people like me and older probably won't understand because it will be utilized differently over the course of time.
Yeah.
It's just how the internet has been utilized differently, just how, various things we just don't get outdated and we just don't use them anymore. Money itself, like nobody does checks anymore. Nobody does. I mean, we might still do money orders. We might still do a check if you tithing or something like that. But like people aren't writing checks as much as they used to. People aren't even using cash as much as they used to. They're using Visa and MasterCard, Discover, American Express. So these transitions happen with or without us. So it's important to either know about it so that you know why you got left behind or why this thing has pivoted to another thing, or you can adopt it slowly, fast, however you want to, and understand that it has the potential to be a system, a game changer, because it is a system itself. And so it depends on the adoption rate of countries, of corporations, of individuals. We hope that this doesn't just become something that a whole bunch of corporations and high net worth, high income individuals just start buying up and kind of price people out of this market. But essentially it could become something like that because nobody is trying to get in on it while it is still in its early stages. People are going to be huffing and puffing about this, whether it's 15,000, 60,000, 100,000, a million. But I would rather listen to those people huffing and puffing about it, because I started buying $5 a week when it was $13,000. And I told myself the goal is to just get one. But even if I don't, we can break it down to smaller denominations, and 100,000 Satoshi, which is a smaller denomination of a Bitcoin, is $108 or whatever I want to say, let's say Bitcoin is at like $108,000 right now. And so 100,000 Satoshi, which is just a smaller amount, would be $108. And so if you think about it in smaller terms, you don't have to think about buying the house at $600,000. You're not going to spend $600,000. That's not going to come out your bank account like that. It's taken out of the course of 15 years, 30 years, however long your mortgage is. So you can apply some of the same concepts of investing to crypto as a whole and say like, okay, I see how this could benefit me in the long run as an investor, as somebody who's financially savvy, as somebody who takes risk in every market, whether it's the housing market, the stock market, like it's volatility in every market, but crypto right now probably has the biggest swings that can break people if they go all in, because there are no guardrails. There is no FDIC that is going to insure people if they lose the key to their crypto.
Well, I think the only thing that would insure the Bitcoin is the amount of money that big investors have in it. They're not willing to lose $2 or $3 million, of an investment just that's the insurance of it. If you ask me, there are people who have a lot of money that's invested in Bitcoin that don't want to actually let it fail, allow it to fail. Right. So, and that might be a better game to play, quite honestly. The FDIC, it gives us a warm and fuzzy, but at the end of the day, the FDIC can also say, yeah, well, you know what, we've changed our minds. They don't have to anything that they said that they've secured. They can always say, yeah, we changed our mind on this.
I think we wouldn't have to go through Congress though.
No, it doesn't. No, remember, our dollar isn't owned by the American people, right? And so the feds can do with it what they want at will.
No, wait a minute.
You can say Congress can regulate how the dollar should be spent in America, but Congress can't regulate all the rules around the fiat dollar because we don't own it.
Wait a minute. Because this is where the conversation gets deep between the Fed being a public or a private when it's actually both. And so, the politicians would have a severe argument because I'm against the Fed altogether.
Sure.
Shouldn't be getting money from a private bank. Our U.S. government should be printing our own money. But
yeah. I mean, what happened during the Great Depression? What happened to currency during the Great Depression?
It fell because the Wall Street, the investors. See, this is where it gets tricky about investing. In the 1920s, they were saying, "Hey, go on and invest." This is the Roaring '20s. And then when the big boys wanted to call those notes in, people couldn't pay it, and they crashed the market. Now, some people say, "No, that's just a conspiracy, Richard. That's not true." Okay.
We know the market crashed and fiat currency lost its value.
It wasn't fiat then because it was still in the gold standard. And then after 33, it went off the gold standard.
I remember y'all saying that. I got to look at that because gold never lost its value.
No, you're right.
So that's why I said that, right?
No, the money was not fiat until after we went off the gold standard, when money was no longer backed by gold, it was backed by perception. So it's interesting that you're saying this. Very similar to the Bitcoin. It's really
I can't say it's similar to the Bitcoin.
Okay.
And the reason why I can't say it's similar to the Bitcoin is because there are different players involved that want to. If people wanted Bitcoin to go belly up, they could have done the same thing with Bitcoin that Hawk Tuah girl did with her meme coin. Right? She could have had a bunch of backing. It could have had a bunch of backing. It could have had a lot of people investing in it quickly.
I'm gonna stop you there only because Bitcoin is not controlled by a single source like these other meme coins are. And so that is the ethics of crypto right now, is like, if it's centralized, who controls it? If I create something and I say that the starting price of this is 15 cents, but I get through affiliate marketing and all other types of Jedi mind tricks, I convince people that it then is worth $3, but I hold 98% of the supply of it. Then in essence, like, I've become, rich off of this thing that actually has no value. It's just a digital sticker. Like, it's actually not a utility of any sort. And so I do think that you have to distinguish within the cryptos their actual utility. Is it something that is helping with contracts and doing like proof of work? Is it something that can be utilized across networks or on a specific network? These are things that can become problematic with crypto, but also the same kind of problems happen with what we deem currencies as a whole, and what we deem as an asset class as a whole. Is like, these assets the prices of them can be manipulated to a degree that we don't really understand. housing market can be manipulated. Like, why is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home in Tulsa averaging $500,000? Like, you only got 1 bathroom. Like, what the hell?
Right. That's kind of the point that I was making, right? The reason why, if we had just the one controller of Bitcoin, right, then it could be likened unto the investment, and it can be likened unto like the Haktua girl, where again a bunch of propaganda was pushed out about it. It rose in popularity. It was supposed to become a thing, but again, since only one person actually controlled it, and they pulled the rug from under everybody, only one person benefit from it, right? Because now they have the thing that we actually place value in their control. Bitcoin, however, because it's not placed in the same situation to where only one person is controlling this vast amount of resource or investment, right? Or the 21, not one person is controlling the 21. Everybody has a bit of a better buy-in to ensure that it does better. So that's the reason why I think it's different. It's a different type of investment than other forms of currency.
Of digital currency.
But even not just digital currency, even when it comes to the dollar.
Okay. I disagree. But when a person can't tell me who started the system, nobody still knows to this day, I don't trust the system. At least when I say I don't trust
But you also don't trust the system when you know who's in it. Like, you don't trust everybody in the government right now.
Yeah.
And you know who all the representatives are. Right.
So when the Fed started in 1913 with that central bank, I don't trust that. Some politicians in the federal government didn't trust it. And it's documented. This is not me just saying it. It's documented in history. But at least I can say, well, hey, Tyrone went down here and robbed the liquor store. And he out here wilding out. But to me, with this Bitcoin, I don't know who went down there and robbed the liquor store. I don't know. But the liquor store got robbed. And whoever got it, whether it was one person or two people, they living their best life.
Yeah, but wouldn't the transactions end up on the ledger? Yeah. In the blockchain if it was robbed? So wouldn't that be cause for a bit more? Wouldn't it be more transparent?
No, because when you asked him at the very beginning of this, you said, Reggie, do you have to source the money? And he really couldn't give you a straight answer. And that's why criminals are getting.
I gave a direct answer about Bitcoin. There are other cryptos in which this scenario is more plausible, like a Trump meme coin or other coins, because of the accessibility into who actually manages the supply or lack thereof accessible.
So if someone wants to come out and buy so much Bitcoin, do they have to source their money? Do you have to show where the money comes from? Because they can buy it anonymously. So if you can let someone buy to Bitcoin anonymously using a pseudo name, then you're not really sourcing that money. So you can have dirty money, clean money, all kinds of money get involved in Bitcoin, because that would be really the free market, which is what they say Bitcoin is based off of, based on a free market ideology. But then again, you say, well, who, in America, they say, well, economics, Adam Smith from Europe. We can say it's all his fault is why our system's all jacked up. It's his fault. We can point to somebody and say he's wrong. But with Bitcoin, I can't even tell you who started this bad boy.
You would still have to go through the court system to find out who or the legal system to find out about this money involved in a crime anyway, in your scenario.
But Bitcoin is not under, from what I read.
So if you commit a crime and nobody knew you committed that crime, they wouldn't know your name in the first place. So whether that was a cash-based crime, like I literally just robbed a store and ran out with the money, they didn't know it was me. How would they know I took the money?
Is Bitcoin
you have to go through you would have to go through the banking system. And if you saw that I just magically deposited $50,000 into my account, but you look back on my W-2 records and you see that I only made $80,000 in a year, you would ask yourself, if you were investigating that and getting flagged by the bank and the bank flagging, the alphabet boys or something like that, that's when this whole scenario that you're talking about actually
Is
plays
Bitcoin
out.
regulated by the United States federal government? It's either yes or no.
No,
Okay. It did not. Then
Be-
if
be-
it's not regulated,
it
you
is.
can do what you want to do.
It is the exchanges that have custodial custody
Okay.
of Bitcoin are now beginning to get under regulation, but this is something that our government is behind on and is
Yeah.
just now
Have they
starting.
passed laws to regulate those exchanges yet?
I can't say yes or no. I know the SEC definitely had some things against the exchanges, and all of these lawsuits have been dismissed recently. But I can't say yes to that. I would assume that no, there are no, outside of maybe some security exchange laws and regulations, there are probably nothing more than that.
But you just said that even
Hold on, Rich. Hold on. Let me read this. Let me read this question from the viewer because it's about liquidity, right? Can an investor who has Bitcoin cash out right now? So if I have 100 shares in Bitcoin, can I sell and make a profit?
You could. You would have to go. Most likely to do that, you would go through like a custodial exchange, like a Coinbase or Kraken or something like that.
So it's possible.
But you also, I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want to get myself into too deep of a rabbit hole.
All right. Now, what were you saying, Rich? I was just want to read that.
My thing is, you said there were some lawsuits, but they got dismissed. You said the SEC was concerned that they didn't quite trust this whole idea of Bitcoin, or they didn't trust the exchanges. But the federal government or no state government in America currently, as of June 4th, 2025, have any rules or regulations to govern Bitcoin or those exchanges. That could change, but I can't see it changing with President Trump in office because he wants a free market. Because that's what you said, Brother Glass, earlier this year on that budget for 25, 26. They want to have little government interference. They want a free market-based economy.
It's not what I said. It's not what I said. It's what they actually put in the bill.
I looked it up and I read it. I said, okay, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting dialogue and language right now with crypto because it's trading like an equity, meaning like a stock, but it's not quite defined as an equity. And so that is something that the government is going to have to kind of define and figure out. But also, depending on that ruling, will determine the future of it being decentralized or a centralized network, crypto as a whole.
I feel a bit better with it not being controlled by our government. I'll be honest with you.
I do too.
That I actually find a bit of security in it not being controlled by our government. That's the honest truth about it. That's why I want to start actually looking into it a little bit more, because if looking at the dollar and how it's controlled and understanding a little bit about the stock market, I know one thing I know for sure, right, is at any given moment, if one of these countries that hold a lot of our debt cash it in, I'm out. I'm out of funds. Anything that I would have invested is done. The value of my investment decreases as our debt is sold.
Again, this is where it gets interesting. Your money is not backed by gold, so it's all backed on perception. So as long as you can print money, as long as the U.S. government can go to the Fed and say, "Hey, send me a couple $100 billion to go over to help Iraq or some foreign country, or to help maybe help Americans,"
They ain't gonna do that.
hypothetically, the Fed will always say, "Well, how much money you need? Okay, here you go. Pay us back with interest." And they'll keep doing it. And as long as other countries keep accepting our money, it doesn't matter how much money we print. Now, if they said, "You know what? We don't want your little money no more. We don't think it's worth anything." So, and in a sense, when they say that, and I don't want people to say that we're being racist or prejudiced against our European American brothers and sisters, but when you say that the US dollar is not worth anything, then what you're saying is the white man's status in this world It's not worth anything. And the last time I checked, my white friends, oh, their status is everything. You're not going to take their status. They'll die for this country. Fair enough. And so I'm relying upon, quote, the manifest destiny that brought European Americans to this country and brought my family over as slaves. I'm counting on that pride. Now, if you tell me, both of you tell me, that pride is no longer there, well, President Trump's trying to keep it there. He's doing all he can.
And I don't disagree with that statement. But here's a question that I do have. How do you get started? How would one go about getting started in investing in Bitcoin? What platforms do you use? How much can you start with? Is there a ceiling or is there a floor? And how often should you go back and check on it?
Yeah, so this is the route that I took. It may not be for everybody, but the route that I took, I first started on Coinbase, and this was before it became a publicly traded company. Also started on Cash App, and these are custodial accounts, right? And so I started by doing like $5 a week. That's what I started at. And then if I got a little extra money that I wanted to throw at it that I didn't want to put into the stock market, I said, all right, let me throw $20, $40 a month at this, something that I wouldn't miss, but hopefully something that could start to accumulate and gain some worth over time. So I would encourage people to just start with $5 and do it as reoccurring as you possibly can, whether that's every month or every week or every other month. Like, just start small, because it is so volatile that, then this is crypto as a whole, but also Bitcoin. It is so volatile that you might not be able to handle a 40% drop from when you bought it, because you bought it at the all-time high at 113, and then you see it drop to 99,000, and psychologically, people might not be able to handle that type of volatility. So I would just say start with an amount that is sufficient for you. If you say, hey, I was going to spend this on a bottle, but I'm going to just buy Bitcoin.
So you're saying you can put $5 a week into, I'm just going to say the Cash App, and then they'll take that and buy just a little bit of Bitcoin every week for you? Like a little portion of it or something?
Yeah, you're buying $5 of Bitcoin. So
by going into Cash App.
Like 0.000 Satoshi.
I got you.
What that $5 is worth.
I got you. So you're buying a very small portion every week of $5 that you buy Bitcoin on the Cash App.
Cash App, Coinbase. I would just say Coinbase for right now. And so from there,
okay,
you could put it onto a hot wallet, and a hot wallet is essentially like a MetaMask or Coinbase wallet. This is something that is on the internet. Essentially, it doesn't have that much security, but once you transfer it from there, you can transfer it to like a cold wallet, like a Treasure wallet, or a what do they call it? I had one, and it was this was my first crypto wallet. What's the name of that? Ledger Nano. It looks like a little flash drive, essentially. And basically what that does is it gives you your private key is on there. And your key is what actually gives you the accessibility to Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin is on the blockchain, but the key is your wallet to give you, or your seed phrase is your wallet and your actual security for the accessibility of your Bitcoin or crypto or other crypto. And so I would also encourage you to look online, get a Ledger Nano X or a Treasure, Trezor. Look at like those kind of cold wallets. And
so wait, you need a wallet. So you have the Coinbase for $5 a week that buys a little portion of the Bitcoin, but then you need a wallet to access the Bitcoin.
Because there's like, there's essentially these exchanges are just custodial. Like you don't actually own it until you have the keys. So there's like a phrase, Uh,
Wait, is the wallet with the key? Does the wallet have the key?
yeah, it'll have like a seed phrase or a long key, like a long
Yeah.
25 character key. Like, don't publish this key or seed phrase anywhere. Don't take a picture of it. This is something that you got to have written down in a safe. Like, this is the bullet to the gun. Like,
And this
so
key,
this is something
this
that,
key is with the wallet.
yes, you will have accessibility to the key, but the crypto itself is on the blockchain. It's a long code on the blockchain. So you
Is the
can
blockchain
associate,
is the blockchain and the wallet together, or are they separate entities?
they are separate entities.
So
Dictated by
the first
that blockchain.
entity, I think I'm talking to an alien. The first entity is the Coinbase, and then the next entity is the blockchain.
So the blockchain is the network. Coinbase is the exchange. Coinbase is the Robinhood. It is the exchange in which you buy and sell the security, right? Like think just in simpler terms, like think of stocks, think of crypto as an equity, like a stock.
I got you.
The company issues the actual stock, right? Like Microsoft issues the stock,
Okay.
but they issue it and on the exchange. So the exchange is how you buy stocks. Same
And
as
that exchange is
Coinbase.
Coinbase.
You're right. But you wouldn't give anybody access to your password on that exchange, right?
That's why you have to have
And
the
that's
wallet.
that's what the key is
On
to
the
your
wallet.
wallet, right? But the wallet is to make sure that you have control over your key, and in essence that Bitcoin.
So I guess what I'm saying is, first is Coinbase, then the blockchain, and then you got to have the wallet with the key. So I'm looking at three separate entities. First, the Coinbase, $5 a week to get the Bitcoin. But then you say I have to go to that blockchain, which is the network. That's a second. No.
Just the blockchain comes first.
Oh, the blockchain comes first.
The blockchain is already the network in which Bitcoin is mined under.
Okay. So the first thing you did when you bought your first Bitcoin, did you go to the blockchain or did you go to Coinbase?
I went to Coinbase. I felt like, for me personally, I needed a centralized network to buy this off of, and it felt comfortable for me to do it on Coinbase because I already knew people on using Coinbase.
So you didn't use blockchain.
I didn't go through like bitcoin.org or where it is actually more of a network.
So is Coinbase a network?
It is an exchange. So, and I'm saying go to the exchange because most people don't start off with a wallet. Like you don't just buy a wallet and then be like, yeah, I'm going to buy Bitcoin and put it on the wallet. Like you could do that. You could go to MetaMask, you can go to Coinbase wallet and just directly have it there. But for most people, they want a middleman. And this is the weird thing about crypto because it cuts out the middleman. But most people still want a middleman to help them through a transaction. And Coinbase is that middleman.
So what I'm so for the people who are listening, I'm trying to run straight down the line. I run it to Coinbase because that's an exchange.
Download Coinbase or sign up for it.
Sign up. So I wouldn't need a blockchain. I wouldn't need the network. I could just go right to the exchange.
You have to link your banking information to Coinbase. So you do that. Let's just say it's US Bank. You link your US Bank to Coinbase. You're able to deposit $15, $20 a month into Coinbase. You can choose what crypto you want to buy off of the exchange. Bitcoin is only one of many crypto on Coinbase. You could buy Ethereum, you could buy Solana, you could buy Chainlink, different crypto have different utilities. And those utilities, depending on what your interests are, might be the token that
There
you
go that
use,
shout out.
might be the token that you use in order to like obtain this currency.
All right, I believe you alone. Your wife ain't got on here, so I'm
Nah,
what I'm trying to understand is,
and so in essence,
Uh-huh.
the Coinbase, it just is adjacent to your bank. It's just
right, but I'm trying to
and
go.
so-
I'm trying to go in the step.
Yeah.
If I run on Coinbase and run my banking information through there,
yes.
then I don't need a blockchain. Then the only thing I would need now is my key, which I have to get through my wallet.
You would then want to buy a wallet. You can buy
Okay.
one
Right, I got you.
off Amazon. You could use Coinbase Wallet, which is an app.
Okay.
I am suggesting for folks to own their keys.
So the
And
blockchain is this. I don't need that.
You, in essence, don't need Coinbase at all if you just have a wallet and you want to go through the blockchain. Correct. But most people, to start off,
Right.
would
So
use a custodial account.
You don't use the Coinbase and the blockchain. It's either one or the other, but you got to have that wallet, because once you set it all up, that wallet will have your key, so you can control that Bitcoin. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's either one or the other, either Coinbase or blockchain.
Coinbase or the wallet.
Or
Coinbase or the wallet. Yeah. I think it'd be easier.
right?
But it's essentially like two transfers that you could do, because it does make sense
Uh-huh.
in my mind to let Coinbase hold certain tokens and currency cryptos. Like I don't really care, because this is another thing, but like you can actually gain an interest off of certain cryptocurrencies by yield farming, which is something you basically are lending and loaning your crypto out to other people. And so it's earning an interest if it stays on the exchange. Certain cryptos like Solana and Ethereum and a couple others offer this interest. And so the incentive for the exchanges like Coinbase are to keep people, have them store their tokens on the exchange, and they gain an interest while having it in there. Similar to banks, how you have a high yield savings account, it'll give you 5% interest rate. Like that's why you have it in there, because your money is making money for you. And so a lot of people, it's easier to just keep it on there for a time being while it's gaining interest. These are some, not all crypto.
Right.
And then transfer that to a cold wallet, which is essentially, think of it as like a USB drive with your most private, sensitive information that's password protected.
So what I'm trying to narrow this down to make it simple. So because if it takes all this explaining, people are not doing it.
But it takes the same explaining as selling, trading stocks, as doing real estate. Like this is something that you have to invest time, research, and energy.
Right, but that's not how the sell game works. When you're on TV, you got to sell that thing in 15 to 20 seconds. If you can't sell it that fast, because you've lost people's attention, especially younger people. So when I'm simply,
it ain't for everybody, and that's what some people are banking on.
So all I'm trying to figure out is, what's the first thing? What's the first step? Coinbase. What's the second step? Wallet. Okay, I'm good. That's quick. But if you say, well, you can do Coinbase or you can do blockchain, well, which one do I need to do?
I didn't say that. You said that.
Right.
I've been very specific. Go to Coinbase, put $5 in.
Oh, I wrote it down.
That $5, buy
per
whatever
week.
crypto you want.
Per week. Yeah.
When you feel comfortable taking that off of Coinbase and put it in the power back into your own hands, buy a cold wallet, transfer that.
But you have to have the wallet regardless, right?
No, you don't. If you don't mind it being in a custodial account, you don't. If you don't mind if you don't mind your stocks being on Robinhood versus some other platform, you could just keep it on there. Like that's what they're there for. It depends on your level of security with other people having access to your information, and that be meaning if you got sued and like all your assets got compiled and they saw that you had X amount of money in Coinbase, then they could come for that. So that's what or even if the flip side happened, if Coinbase runs out of money, similar to how FTX with Sam Bankman-Fried, all that stuff happened. Like if they go under, the creditors are going to get paid first. So it's safer at the end of the day, at some point, whenever you decide, it is just safer to have the money and the crypto on you versus in the system itself.
So that's why you said initially the Coinbase, which is the exchange, that's the one you went through.
Mm-hmm.
You went $5 a week, $20 a month. And that Coinbase has its own internal wallet. But you're saying don't go with the internal wallet, go in an outside wallet. You have complete control because you have just the key yourself. Nobody else can have access to it.
Correct.
And that's what, okay. So you see, I see. So you see how I'm just, because I know how people think. Once you have to go out and get people to vote for you, you understand you can tell them the truth and give them all the information, and they'll look at you like, you got to move me, you got to convince me. And what I can't figure out is, I don't even know who started this thing. And that puts me. Oh, wait, hold on, Reggie. Can you tell us what happened to that Sam? Oh God,
Sam Bankman-Fried.
What did he do wrong?
He basically committed a level of fraud because he was using money that was taken from other people and using it for personal gain.
Was this a type of cryptocurrency?
He was the founder and owner and operator of a crypto exchange. So I haven't read the legal judgment, but in essence, he could have either been using the tokens as collateral, or he could have been using the token itself because they did have their own token that they managed. So I'm not exactly sure why, but it was more of a securities exchange. It was like a SEC essentially.
But it was a digital currency though, correct?
FTX was a crypto and I don't know. Yeah, it was a crypto.
Yeah, I never messed with FTX.
So he did some bad stuff. He got to go to jail. He couldn't get out of it. Currently, he couldn't get out of it. I guess he's in jail now. But that's just one isolated case regarding corruption in cryptocurrency.
I mean, the guy from Binance, he was in jail. I think he just got out. And so, yes, Binance is another exchange. And that's why I'm telling people, BNB is the token. So
two
that's
people
what I'm
going
saying.
to jail for this?
Yeah. And so
at least.
And so there is a problem
Okay.
that could be brewing with these centralized exchanges, and hence why in theory and in reasoning, crypto should stay decentralized so that you don't have this mass manipulation of these tokens and these cryptos. Some of them are legit just Ponzi schemes and people don't realize it until the rug sweep. But it depends on the utility. Like, see if the actual token or the crypto has a actual utility, or if it's a store of value, or it has some cultural significance, meaning that it's been in the lexicon and the language for over a decade.
Did you buy the Donald Trump meme coin as a cryptocurrency? You didn't trust it?
No, I would never put my money into something that I wasn't willing to investigate and research thoroughly. And I saw no reason to research and investigate that because it appeared to be just as it was, which is get as many rich people in on it as quick as possible, and then see how many people get left knowing about it towards the end of its lifetime and life cycle, and that's where you make your money. So it seemed to be somewhat of a scheme, not saying that it is, but from the jump, it just kind of seemed weird and also unethical. Like, I don't want my president having his own coins and tokens. He's already sells everything else. Like, why should he be selling something that is adjacent to money?
So here's the question. And this is out of sheer ignorance. The difference between a Bitcoin or a meme coin or a token. What are the differences between the three? Are they the same essentially in description and used differently, or are they vastly different in nature? Totally.
They are all different in their own right. Bitcoin itself is a protocol and a crypto. Now, crypto just being like based off of cryptography, but also like mathematical equations that are achieving some solution in a network. It's a little difficult to explain because it requires a level of computer science and just understanding how networks work. But at the same time, meme coins, think of meme coins as like digital trading cards. These can be something that I issue as a gift or as something that has value, but typically should be associated with some type of commodity, some type of service, some type of exchange of goods, right? And it's typically not. And that's why a lot of people are against crypto as a whole, because they see that anybody can create a meme coin on a blockchain network that is not Bitcoin, but it can be like the Ethereum network and some of these other networks that we haven't even gotten into. But you can create this token that has no intrinsic value, say that it's worth 15 cents, and then see how high you can raise the value of it based off of how many people are buying it and how much is in circulation. And then with crypto itself, there are certain developmental tools that other cryptos solve for. So they might be doing contracts or something like, for example, it can be expensive for folks to send remittance back home, right? If you use Western Union or something like that, you're trying to send somebody money across the world. Not only are you doing a currency conversion, but then like Western Union is taking their cut of it too, right? And
Right.
so there are developer tools that utilize an exchange system to send certain types of information, contracts, things like that. And they develop tokens. So you'll see like a Solana token or a Sui token or Chainlink. And they're using this token as a currency to provide a service. And depending on what that ratio is to the dollar, in essence, it might be easier to send some money to somebody across the world by using a token. And I could see your head turning and thinking of maybe it could be used for nefarious, illegal reasons. In essence, yes, it could be, depending on the network that it's on, but most of the time, and usually all the time, these networks are public. So if you are looking for the discrepancies in the amount of money sent back and forth, you could find it.
Come on, Rich. I see it happening.
All right.
But it's
As a
still,
storm
I would
away.
say it's an emerging technology that still has yet to be understood, similar to other previous emerging technologies that we should be aware of the risk, should definitely be aware of the risk, as well as the reward that it might have as a utility over time.
So You were talking about the computational solution of mathematical problems. That's how it's being generated, and it operates independently of a central bank. And then it says it's a hot commodity among speculators, and we can't even tell you who created this thing. Okay, that's fine. I know you're right in your argument.
Would you rather it be backed by the military?
Are you asking me a political question or just a
No, I mean the U.S. dollar is all. You said it was backed by perception, but it's also backed by the military. Like the military might of the U.S. and our trade agreements and perception is what keeps the value of the dollar relatively high compared to other currencies.
Okay, yeah, I'd agree with that. I would.
But would you trust Bitcoin and other currencies more if they were backed by the military?
I would not trust anything. Well, first of all, let's go back to why I don't trust the Fed, and then I'll take it to the Bitcoin.
Okay.
I don't trust the Fed because you got the power of the ability to print money. Who controls how much money is printed by a private group of bankers, not by the American people. That's why I don't trust the Fed. And I'm not the first person or the last person to feel that way. So when they say we can print this much money and send over to Iraq to help build Iraq, when you say you can't give universal health care to take care of our citizens here, no, I got a problem with that. America first, except when I say that, I mean that. Now, I go to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin was built the kind of the same way as the Fed, which I think it is, but I think it's a smoother hustle because we don't know who we don't know who created Bitcoin. It's based off of some mathematical, and most people in America can't do math. So when you tell people about investing, all they know is go find somebody they trust. Here's the money. Don't screw me up. And then, hopefully, because it sounds like you're an individual, expert investor. Most people should just be indexing the whole market and walking away.
Yeah, it's the reason why Vanguard indexes are what they are.
Yes, I know Vanguard. Yes. Yeah. So, but the people who are the experts, you have the stomach to go in there and to win. But to me, when you talk about the Bitcoin, talk about the Fed, it's all a casino. It's no different than Las Vegas. So people like you who have high math skills, you can go to Las Vegas and win at those card games because you can count like a computer. That's the blessing you have from God. You can count and you can win. But them other 90 people, they paying you and the casino. So when you have people who have that high level intelligence, they can go onto Wall Street. They can go into Bitcoin. They'll be successful. But for everyone else, no, you get your ass handed to you. You're not good enough.
Not everybody should be on the basketball court.
It's even worse. It's worse than that.
You only play the games you know how to.
It's worse than that because you go to the basketball court, person may not have the same skill, but they can at least exhibit all the effort and still lose, but put out a maximum effort. I don't care how much effort you put out. If you don't have it up here, when you go into investing or you go to Las Vegas, you're losing, period.
I don't know if I can agree with that totally, but I get what you're saying.
No, that's fair. But I just know a lot of people think they can get into investing, and then when the market goes belly up, now they want to sell real quick. No, you have to hold and ride the wave. Most Americans will not have that financial discipline to ride the wave. So when you talk about something this complex as Bitcoin, now just an isolated example.
I definitely will agree with you. Like investing is a volatile sport, and it is also a game of patience. Like I wouldn't go into any investment without a 5-year horizon minimum. Like that's how I view almost every equity investment that I have. It's like, all right, like I have my target prices set of where I would sell it depending on the amount of shares that I have. But then I also know the long game. Like I don't think that I'll ever be Warren Buffett, but I know that he's accumulated most of his wealth through holding on to stocks for the long term in in recessions and depressions, but also in, good times of surplus and a high dollar. And so the value of investing, the value of playing games that you know how to win in, is making sure that you have the patience to endure that volatility.
When you got involved in Bitcoin, I think that's a brilliant move. I don't trust it, but I still think that's a brilliant move on your part. Because listen, let's hear me out for a second. Back in the early 2000s, people were getting involved in all the tech stuff, and people were losing. When it went belly up, they lost. But if you had invested in Microsoft or Apple, you will never lose. And same for the girl I saw on Facebook, the African American woman. She had the audacity and the intelligence to invest in Tesla. She'll never look back. Now, does that mean that if 10 electric car companies come out and you invest in all 10, most of them went belly up? Tesla ain't going belly up, period. So that was a brilliant move. You probably got money in Tesla, Reggie. So
I took it out because of what I felt was ethical reasons. I have made a lot of money off of Tesla.
I figured that was a brilliant move. So whoever told you, because I don't know if you had the whole portfolio and that became part of your portfolio, or you went out and single-handedly say, I'm going to roll my dice on these electric cars because some of these electric cars are going to make it. Regardless of what you did, that was a brilliant move. Brilliant move. Yeah. So everyone's looking for the next brilliant investment. Is it Bitcoin?
And so what I will say, which speaks to what you're talking about, is a lot of people don't have the stomach for it. And so what has been developed over the past year are these Bitcoin, Ethereum ETFs, similar to indexes. It basically bundles the crypto for you into a more digestible, equitable experience, because it's a security that's backed by the SIBC. And so people can go about it that way. You won't own Bitcoin directly, but you can go through like a Grayscale ETF to be able to participate in Bitcoin and the benefits that it seems to be having over the next decade or so. And so I would just say, like, if you don't have the patience, like that's what places like Vanguard are for, and they'll bundle your stuff up into like a 2050 plan or a 2030 plan, and it will give you a more broader spectrum of the market, the top 100 companies, the S&P 500, something that averages out all of the companies over time, so it's not as volatile. So you might see a 20% swing in the upside, but you might only see like a 15% on the downside, versus if you own that individual stock, you got to ride that wave in both directions.
So I think you bring a healthy amount of skepticism towards both fiat currency as well as cryptocurrency, Rich. But the question that I have, in the spirit of balancing it all, is what should we invest in, right? If you don't trust the stock market or the feds enough to give them the leeway to allow your money to make money, and you also don't trust crypto because you don't know where it comes from, well then where should we invest? Where should people invest? Not just minerals and metals, rather, but
I'm a firm believer in real estate. Now, old-timey black folks did the insurance. They weren't wrong. And real estate, owning multiple homes, renting them out if you choose. I don't have anything against the stock market. I just know the stock market is going to have more losers than winners. That's what I know. And I don't need the stock market crash in 1929, the panic back in 1908 or 1907. The stock market.
We can look at as soon as 2008, as recent as 2008, right?
Right. So now people say, hey, you can lose money with real estate. Not long term, you can't. Because remember, I always tell people, look at your foundation. When European Americans came to America, they saw all this land and no land titles because the Native Americans don't do land titles. And they said, you have no land titles? No. Where's your long rifle? Oh, we don't have that. Okay. All this land and opportunity, they tell us we're all going to die because Israel and Palestine can never have peace because of land. That's what they tell us.
That's because of greed and because of something else that I won't get into directly.
What I'm always saying is countries always invade other countries. They say to give you democracy, to give you a better way of life. They want your land and resources. So when you talk about what would you invest in if you don't trust the stock market, I would say real estate. But here's something I stand by this. Don't carry debt if you don't have to. Do not carry debt. Now, Mr. Glass, they taught me in college to carry debt.
Yeah.
The DuPont analysis. And I never forgot that because the DuPonts is one of the founding families here in this country.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you know how the market's going to go, yeah, you can borrow money.
But don't nobody know how the market's going to go. Quote unquote.
Because those in power control the marketplace. So they always know when to buy and when to sell and when to call somebody's coat strings.
Sure.
So if you have insider knowledge on Wall Street, you'll always be fine.
But nobody's supposed to have insider knowledge on Wall Street.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. And on your show, you are absolutely correct. We obey the laws of our country. You are absolutely correct. Thank you.
Let me read this statement by my sister. She said, Black folks have to diversify, though. Most investments have a level of risk associated with it. High risk, high reward. Right. So go ahead.
She's not wrong. But here's the problem when Black folks invest. If you wanted to destroy the Black community other than using drugs and alcohol, convince them along with white people to invest in the Wall Street. And then invest, blow up Wall Street and take all their money. See, old time Black folks, whether they were in church, being righteous, or they're out here selling drugs in the streets, they didn't keep their money in banks. They kept it at home and they bought property.
So here's the difference, right? The price of land has drastically risen, way above what the normal average single person can afford, generally speaking, depending on where they are in life, right? So I don't disagree with you at all by saying invest in real estate, buying your own house first off, and then looking at other places to buy, so on and so forth. But I think for the average person, especially now and understanding the way things are going, buying a house is something that is not an attainable thing. All right. But let me read this comment by, and I don't know what's up with this name, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Sieg Wolf. Maybe I said that correctly. I don't know, but the prefix of that. But anyway, I agree with this, right? You cannot own property in the USA in jurisdictions that assess property tax, which is most places. It's a lease by proxy, which has a truth to it. It does have a truth to it, right? If there's a tax that you have to pay on the property that you quote unquote own, do you own it? Right, which is one of the reasons why whenever we leave, we'll buy land and we'll buy property, we'll pay for it one time, and that's going to be it. Well, America's go ahead.
So I see what this person is saying. So here's how I'm going to respond back to that, because I was looking at that. If you have to pay property on your land, do you really own it or you just leasing it? I don't know. If you have a wife, do you own your wife or you have to pay property on it? Now, most men say, hey, if I'm married, I own my wife and she owns me. Hold on, listen to how I say this. Most men, if they're married in a good marriage, they'll say, I own my wife and she owns my ass. Whether we pay property tax or not. So
I don't know about that statement.
I wouldn't say that, but I kind of get where you're coming from.
I do too. Again, I understand what you're saying, but that's so okay. I get what you're saying.
If I pay property tax on my home, I still own my home. In my mind, I own my home. But in a sense, if I don't pay on property taxes, I'm losing my home. I get that too. So, I said marriage is kind of tricky like that too. Because a woman say, "Yeah, I own my husband, and he owned me. We in this together." Miss a few payments. So when people say, "Well, you shouldn't equate a marriage to a mortgage because you can't buy a woman's love," you're absolutely right. You can never buy a woman's love, but you can lease it for 100 years.
But even with that being said, if you begin to go,
see, he's laughing. But
let's put that in different terms, right? If you begin to go bankrupt in the currency of love, you'll end up losing your wife, right?
Possibly, yes.
Yeah. I don't know many. I'm not gonna say any, but I don't know many people, not just women, that are married who have become morally bankrupt and have had to tap in and get out of that marriage. It folded. It folded.
Listen, when Reggie and you and everyone says, even Stephanie and Lynn Medeiros, that you have to invest, by the numbers, you're not wrong. Now, Mr. Richard Kiyosaki says real estate. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Robert, he says real estate, 15-year mortgage, or you paid too much for that home. He's not wrong. He's not wrong either. Even the relationships are released. He's right. Yeah, I agree with Sig Wolf. So my thing is the whole idea is the wealthy, not the rich. The wealthy want you to invest so they can take from you, and then when you get to a certain level of financial security in Wall Street, if you don't get a chance to yank that money out when you retire, they're going to yank it out for you. But if you had to just control your own destiny by saying, I'm going to take what money I have and do my real estate where I don't need Wall Street. But the first thing I have to learn how to do is not create debt. It's hard to ignore all the abilities or all the financial opportunities to buy in this country, because we'll sell you anything. And we are the best marketers in the world at selling you something you really don't need. I can't go to malls, because when I go to mall, you know what? I need all this shit up in here.
Yeah,
I don't need none of it.
You finna go get that thick chain. You gonna rock it. You finna go buy that.
Right. But you know what? That thick chain, hold on. That thick gold chain I bought back in 1989, I still got it.
Sure enough.
It's worth its weight in gold.
Literally.
So, but I knew when I bought that chain, I would never buy another. That was going to be for life.
Yeah.
But getting people to really not create debt.
That's
Why do you
tough.
think I'm single? Why do you think I'm single? I ain't got no woman. I'm going to spend no money. No money, no woman. That's how it goes in America. You gonna spend.
You got to pay to play.
Money, but you gonna spend all your time. If they tell me time's money, so if you ain't got no money, she's getting all your time. If you got some money, now you can try to negotiate your time with her.
Everything is pay to play. There's nothing that escapes pay to play.
Or pay to lease, or how do you want to call it?
Lease it. Now, kids.
But they don't teach that. They don't teach that in college. I'm telling you, they don't teach you. They don't teach you to save. They teach you. They say, why put your money in the savings account? 1-2% interest. If you get that per year, Richard, you put that into Wall Street that gives you a 10 to 11% rate of return. Oh God, from either 1900 or 1908. That's what you do, Richard. What's wrong with you, Richard? And by the numbers, they're not wrong. But they don't teach you to save money first. They don't teach you don't create debt. Well, except for the Republicans. They'll tell you don't create debt, even though the president is doing his own thing.
About to say.
Even though they spend on credit.
I don't know about that.
He's not your typical Republican. Republicans always teach financial responsibility. Don't live beyond your means.
Conservatives do.
Conservatives.
There you go, conservatives. Yeah. But they don't teach that. They don't teach that in college. So when young people come and say, hey, we're going to do this Bitcoin, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to market ourselves and do our own podcast. I know they're right. for the long term.
Man,
But
that's the tough part.
where's the foundation? So when we first started talking about this Bitcoin, I kept saying, whose idea was this? Is this Tyrone's? Or is this, what's his name? Nokamoti?
It came from Jesus. And even with that name, even with the Asian name that you threw out there, that name came from a guy who said, I know who started this. If you knew, you'd be afraid. That was a propagandized name as well. Because nobody actually knows. Nobody
I
actually
just have a
knows.
hard time. If I know who kind of is behind the Fed, and I don't trust them, but I know who they are, and I don't know who this person is, or persons, or a system. Is this AI hustling me? Did AI create Bitcoin and they couldn't come out and say it yet because they haven't got their citizenship yet in America? But once AI gets its citizenship, then they can come out and say, that's my Bitcoin. I designed that. And I'm suing the government for it because they didn't give me credit for it. Who did this?
I understand what you're saying. That's a wild as hell ass claim, but I get what you're going with it. Where you going with it though? So before we switch to final thoughts, the final question that I have for the panel is, which would be more realistic to invest in right now? What thing is more realistic to invest in right now? Is it the real estate type of deal, or is it keeping the money in the mattress, or would it be putting away $5 every now and again, or not going to buy a bottle every now and again and tossing it into Coinbase or putting it into Bitcoin? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's really just an opinion right at this point, because that $5 that you throwing in the Coinbase, you could say that you could put it in a mattress, and over time it can develop into being able to own a house with that, right? So it's not a right or wrong answer. It's just me trying to gauge generationally and age gap wise, generationally, maneuverability type of thing where we are, because again, we're not a monolith. We have various different gaps between all of us, and the idea is to bridge them so we can always journey and touch each and every last idea in person. So which thing is more realistic to you, Reggie?
So it's a percentage game with me when it comes to this. A percentage of it has to be physical cash. So, 3 to 6 months of income saved as cash. Equities, stocks and equities. And so let's just say 33% cash, 33% or 50% stocks and equities, because traditionally they have given the greatest return outside of Bitcoin. I right now, like I said, have about anywhere from, depends on the market and the volatility, but I have anywhere from about 5 to 10% invested into Bitcoin. And then obviously, if you can afford it, land, real estate. And then lastly, some self-defense measures. So if that's a gun or some type of security defense system for your home, also invest in that.
Just to throw this out here before we get into yours real quick, Rich, Mr. Seegwolf or Miss Seegwolf, the wolf, they, them, y'all, you, there's always a place in the space on the platform for anybody who wants to actually voice their opinion. I absolutely appreciate you in the comments, but I would appreciate it even more if you would actually come and have a more in-depth conversation about everything that you're saying. Just to read the comment, however, I suggest diversification based on levels of custodial control, physical gold ETFs. We didn't even talk about any of this. Mutual funds, cash and mattress, etc. Reggie's saying the same, right? So I think that's several different other points, because I actually do invest in silver and gold. And I've had to use it to cash in on, right? To get cash from. And I've done it when I've watched the market go up, right? And so I had direct fiat return on those investments that I was like, oh, you know what? Let me keep some of this in the safe just in case, right? But I also invest in spirits. I went and got Dang it, Crown Royal. I went and got some Crown Royal on purpose before the tariffs hit. I did that on purpose, because I plan for the zombie apocalypse sometimes, but that's neither here nor there, right? But see, Wolf, if you would like to, any time we're on, especially Wednesdays and Thursdays, hop on. I'll usually post a link in the chat, but we got to talking and I was listening so hard that I kind of forgot to. But all right, Rich, your answer to the question.
Reggie and his wife and Sig Wolf were right. They're talking about diversifying in all these different type of financial vehicles. They're right. I would say number one is don't have a lot of debt. Because if you don't have a lot of debt, then I can't come and take nothing from you. And when you said 6 to 8 months, Reggie, for cash, then I should be able to take care of my property taxes so I can hold on to my home. Most Americans, what does it say? 8 out of 10 Americans are one paycheck from being homeless.
Not anymore. It's $400. We don't have, the average American doesn't even have $400 in their bank account to pay for an emergency.
All right, so I'll try to make this shorter. Low debt again, because I guarantee you those people who don't have at least $400, I'm willing to bet you that a lot of those people probably have a 401k. I'm willing to bet you that. And that's smart, except when your 401k goes belly up. Or when you get so broke, you say, hey, cash out my 401k because the market is going downhill. Nope. So everyone is right. You have to diversify. But here's the trick to this. If you believe that the wealthy control everything. If everybody is going into Wall Street, I'm going to crash Wall Street and take every dime from you. So if the crowd is going to Wall Street, I'm going somewhere else. Don't move with the crowd. If the crowd is buying on Wall Street, you're selling on Wall Street. If they're selling, you're buying, because that's what the wealthy do. But do you have the discipline? I'm going to bet against you. I'm going to bet against you. Most people don't have that financial discipline. My answer is if you can, keep your debt low. So when people laugh at me when I do these videos with you and they see me sweating and I'm wiping my head off, at some point I got to turn my air on. At some point. And I'm putting that point as far out until I can't take it no more. Then I'll turn the air on. People laugh at me. That's fine. Go ahead and laugh.
Give me a second. I'm about to come back. I had typed that out before I lost the thought. Hey, Juan. So this is hopefully the beginning of something that we can begin to do frequently by introducing different movements of financial stability and understanding, knowledge, comprehension skills for investments, so on and so forth. And it ain't going to be for everybody, right? And it's not supposed to be. That not everybody can hop on this train, and that's fine. But for those who have an ear to hear and who want to do better and want to try and do better, I recommend getting yourselves around and listening to something and people that are smarter than what you are about these things. Rich and Reggie are a lot smarter than I am about money. And I won't listen. I will argue certain points, but there's a certain point where I'll be like, that's far past my mental I can't get there with them.
You know what? I'm so tired of
watching. And the dad shirt. She's so silly. So that's what I recommend people do. Invest in people who are smarter than you. Invest in people who are smarter than you. That's how you get from where you are to where you want to be. And with that being said, we're going to move into final thoughts. Let me bring the music up a little bit. Got to play that for final thoughts as we get through this. So, Reggie, since this is your first time on the Family Bloodline podcast, and hopefully not the last time, because I'd love for you to begin to come back and just keep us updated on everything new that you learn about crypto and any other investments. But let's get your final thoughts first.
Yo, I want to thank you for having me first and foremost, but I want to encourage people to just invest in reading. Books are still one of the greatest sources of information besides another person who's had a similar experience. And so I would just encourage folks to invest in reading in the things that they find interest in, because the internet, social media is trying to steal your attention, but not provide you any education or information. So invest in yourself by either getting a library card, Audible account, or just downloading some PDFs offline. But there's some great books out there on different types of investments and strategies, and just take time to read.
I can dig it. Rich, I'm my bad. Let me address you properly. President Richard Lewis Brown, president of Local 1000.
Hey, you know what? Some people call me President Brown. Other people can call me Richard or Richard. But folks from Missouri call me Richard. That's where my, and that's where my foundation is.
Yeah.
Richard. First of all, Reggie is right on cryptocurrency. I know he's right. I have to bust him up a little bit, but I know he's right. Second, he's right on investing and reading. I know he's right on that, along with his wife. Sig Wolf, he is right. And Mr. Glass is right as well. I'm resistant to letting someone control me. And I'm not going to move with the crowd. And I'm going to do some reading. And I'm going to try to keep up with all of you young people. And that's what I'm going to do. And this thing about diversity tickles me to death. Because in relationships, a woman says, you can't diversify. I am your one and only. When it comes to religion, they say, I am your one and only God. Ain't no diversity. But yet when it comes to our money, we said we sure got to diversify. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if that's the devil or if that's Lucifer. I don't know. God tells me I'm the one God. You don't need nobody else. But when it comes to this money on earth, oh no, Richard, you got to diversify. So with that being said, I'm going to try to maintain my religious bearing and still put my faith in God through Jesus Christ and still be able to interact with people here on this planet. I'm going to do my very best. I'm President Richard Lewis Brown, Local 1000. Mwah.
Wow, got it. I dig it. My final thoughts. There's something that I've only shared with a few people, and I'm not finna share it right now. Both the brothers on the platform, I've shared it with them. Family, I will spread the news to y'all a little bit later on in life, right? I'm enjoying the moment. I am enjoying the moment. And what I will say is, just, golly, there's so much that I want to say, but I can't. I got to hold on to it just for a little while longer. I'm going to hold on to it a little while longer.
I get 28.
I will hold on to it for just a little while longer. But what I will say, family, what I will say is, first off, do not get out in these streets and protest as much as we want to, as much as it would be a righteous cause. Don't do it, because these motherfuckers don't care about you, and they just looking for a reason. They're looking for a reason, and don't give them one. If somebody's supposed to be out in the streets marching, you let the people who ain't had dogs sicked on them yet get out there. They got it. It's their turn anyway. They can do this set, not us. Sit back and fix our communities. After we get our communities fixed, if you want to stay here, by all means. But for those of us who are ready to leave, damn it, let's get ready for it. Get yourself prepared. Go somewhere, be about your business, and not just that. Get somewhere where you can be, you're free, where you can actually experience freedom. Prepare yourself for that. Surround yourself with people who have a similar mindset as you. Build the bridges to actually delineate the gaps so you can get to different places that you need to get to. That's the aim, that's the goal, and that's the movement. From Jay Glass, the movement. As always, good people, we always appreciate you hanging out with us. And it always seems like whenever we getting ready to hop off, that's when people start hopping on. The views start going up. Right at 2+ hours, the views start going up. But catch the replay. It was a great show. It was a lot of information that was shared. Oh, congrats running your first 5K one. I'm proud of you. I'm
And
proud of you.
make sure you tell Mr. Sig Wolf that this is your invention. I'm on your podcast. This is Mr. Glass's podcast.
Oh,
Now, I got my own little Facebook
miss something.
page, but this is Mr. Glass's podcast. This is his family bloodline. This is his podcast, Sig Wolf.
Oh,
My
but
Facebook page is R.L. Brown, but this is his, Mr. Glass. This is his podcast.
I'm glad. I'm glad you said that. Reggie, where can people follow you if you're pushing information out about Bitcoin?
I'm not pushing any information out about Bitcoin. You can follow my life and see how I live as an investor, as a traveler. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Reggie_global. I'm also on LinkedIn. There's various other platforms. I'm not the biggest social media person, but that's where you can just see little snippets of my life. And
All right. Rich.
R.L. Brown on Facebook. Richard DeReal. Oh, God. Richard DeReal on Instagram. Richard DeReal 7437. Richard Real 7437 on X. Richard DeReal 7437 on TikTok. YouTube, Richard Lewis Brown. Lewis, Louis, like Lewis knock you out. If you go up on the internet, you'll see all types of articles about me on the internet. You can go to my website, createexcellence7437.com.
There it is. So, with that being said, good people, as always, we appreciate y'all for coming out, hanging out with us. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or if there is something that you would like to hear hosted on the Family Bloodline podcast, hit us up, thefamilybloodline.com, the family FBL podcast at gmail.com. We'll get those emails and we'll read them. We'll listen and look at everything that you want to hear spoken to and discussed on or with, but whatever's supposed to come after that. I'm tired. I had a long day and been up early. So with that being said, thank y'all for coming out. God bless and good night.